Good morning. As you can see, I'm a literary giant. That's why these do me no good. I'll be holding this the whole time. It's nice to see you all this morning. I'm glad we got such a great turnout for this event. Most of you, or a lot of you, know me already or know who I am, but for you who don't, here's the bio. I was a newspaper man from the time I was 18 to the time I was 40. When I was around 30, I started playing around with fiction, and it became my life. It took over my life. Since then, I'm almost 60 now. So in the past 30 years, I've published 27 books, but as of last week, 28 books. And I'm going to talk to you a lot about this one today. 20 of those books are published by either New York houses or small publishers, so I've had a lot of experiences with those. And then 8 I've published myself, including this most recent one. And I've got 2 more books that are in the self-publishing pipeline right now. One will come out in December, one will come out next year. And since I recently fired my agent, that's 0 and 5, folks. 0 and 5 on agents. I've had 5, I've fired 5. I'll be self-publishing for this foreseeable future. And you know what? That's okay with me, because at least for now, because self-publishing has turned into this great thing. We are in the midst of a revolution in publishing, and we're the pioneers. We can take full advantage of it. It's great. I call this talk, "It Isn't Rocket Surgery," because I really do want to emphasize how relatively easy self-publishing can be, and how even a Luddite like me, who has no slideshow, can do it. All right, look at me. I'm a large, clumsy man, prone to stumbling and talking to myself, which makes me perfect as an author. I spend a lot of time by myself, where I belong. I have had no formal training in computers, or formatting, or cover design, or marketing, or much of anything, really. I just know how to put words together, one after another. I majored in journalism, which taught me nothing about writing books. Taught me a lot about writing journalism, but there was a huge learning curve there. But I was always a big reader, like probably everyone in this room, and I loved crime novels of all kinds, detective stories and mysteries and things like that. And so when I got to be 30, I tried it. I tried to write a crime novel, and it was terrible. But it was fun to try to do it, and I didn't know it was terrible because I was new. And I sent it out to agents, and they sent it right back so fast it was like a boomerang. Sometimes it wouldn't even get out the door good; it was coming back in. So since that failed so wonderfully, I wrote a sequel with the same character. Guess what? That didn't sell either. And then I wrote a book that was set in New Mexico. I was in the process of moving back to New Mexico from California about then. And that one was good enough to land me an agent. This was in 1991, when it was a lot easier to get an agent because there was fewer of us competing for them. But he couldn't sell that book, and so it never got published either. And looking back, that's a good thing. Then the 4th book I tried to write was called Lonely Street, and it was about a private eye here in Albuquerque who's just not very good at it. He gets beat up a lot and tricked. He's gullible. He has a genetic gullibility. It runs in his family, and sort of the worst handicap you can have if you're a detective. And in his first book, Lonely Street, he gets hired by what appears to be the living Elvis. Now, this was long after Elvis was, just about 20 years after Elvis was dead, almost 20 years. And, but there were still all those people seeing him in laundromats and down at Furs and line, And so I took the two things. I took my not very good private eye and said, well, what if he thought he was representing the king of rock and roll? And that's where this book took off. And of course, because of the Elvis connection, it sold to pocketbooks, and I was off and running as an author. And that was fine for as long as it lasted. But, you know, I have what is unfortunately a fairly typical publishing history in this country, which means that I've been orphaned at one house after another, again and again. It's the saddest thing. I published 2 books in Pocket, and then my editor was fired. And I don't think it was my fault, but I knew I didn't have an editor there anymore, so I was orphaned. And then I moved to St. Martin's, and they published 3 of my books, and they did equally badly. And so I was they didn't fire that editor. In fact, she's still there, but they fired me. And then I published a bunch of stuff at smaller houses because I'm too stubborn to stop. You know, I just like it so much, and I think I'm telling good stories for people. And the fact that so few people read them was just, you know, my cross to bear. Everything I've learned about self-publishing is self-taught. I've read it all, and I've read these instruction manuals that they're talking about up here. And as a Luddite, I can tell you that's a challenge. It's a challenge because you don't always know what they mean, even a little bit. But the instruction manuals sort it out for you pretty well. And since this revolution has begun, those of us who are participating in it, the front lines, have come to wear many hats. If you're publishing with a traditional house, really all you got to do is write the books and maybe do some bookstore appearances. They do everything else, and that's the cool part about being with a traditional publisher. We would all rather, you know, have some big contract, $1 million contract, some big house, and just spend all of our time at the vineyard with cocaine and hookers. But, however, only a very small handful of authors get that kind of money. For the rest of us, self-publishing looks better and better. But you got to be willing to work, and you got to be willing to take on things you might not necessarily know how to do by reading the instructions, by trying it. This revolution really kind of began around 2007 with the advent of Kindle, and print on demand has become much easier because of the espresso machine and similar technologies like Sarah was talking about. Now, what that means is that a lot of us Luddites have had to learn page formatting and cover templates and how to keep the words from disappearing into this gutter in the middle, which you see so many times in self-published books. It's like, I'd love to know what this says down in that gap there. So we've become publishers and editors and marketers, and as well as writers, whether we like it or not. That's the reality. There are fewer big houses. There's 5 now. Used to, I write a mystery, my agent would send to 20, 30 different editors. Now it's about a half a dozen, and then we're done. Because the rest of them don't have any money. So there's fewer opportunities to break in to the big houses and to get at that national audience that we're all after. Ever ruined your appetite yet? It's just a box of lunch, it's okay. All right, here's the good news. I'll fix your appetite. Self-publishing has never been easier. That's becoming clearer as the day wears on. And it's never been more profitable. The 70% royalty that Sarah was talking about is like nothing we've ever had before in publishing. When I started out, I was being published in paperback, and I was getting an 8% royalty. So books sold for $6, and I got 8% of that. What, 48 cents? And you're lucky if you get that, because they'll find a way to steal it from you if they can. Not that I'm bitter. But if 70%, if you haven't spent a whole lot to publish your book, 70% earns it back pretty dang fast. The math I always like to tell is, and some of you have heard it before, but I'd like to hear it again. If I sell you a hard copy book from St. Martin's, say, for $24.99, after everybody takes their bite, the agent, the publisher, the bookseller, I make $2 out of $24.95, $2. If I sell you an ebook for $2.99, I make what? $2. And you would much rather spend $2.99 than $24.95, I'm guessing. So you can, if you have to spend $100 on your cover and $500 on your editing or whatever those upfront costs could be, it's fairly easy then to calculate how many books you got to sell to earn that back. So if you end up spending, $200, you're going to have to sell 100 $2.99 Kindle books. Boy, that was an engineering move there, wasn't it? I did math on my feet. You got to sell 200 before you're actually making any money. Okay, and that's just business. It's going to be that way with whatever you invest in. Invest in yourself. Ebooks are out there in perpetuity, which means that you're going to get some, probably very small, royalty every month forever. Forever. As long as the book is selling even one copy, you'll get a little tiny check. Words I wrote 25 years ago are making me money right now. Not a lot, but every month I get a royalty from Amazon. And some of those old books are on there still making money for me. My two sons who are complete hippies, will collect royalties long after I'm dead, which sucks. Because I think they're just kind of waiting for that now. Boy, are they going to be disappointed. The ingrates. Anyway, if it turns out that I'm one of those long-suffering authors who finally gets rich and famous after he's dead, I'm going to be so mad. But my boys are going to love that. So aside from making small amounts of actual money, the nicest thing about self-publishing is that you can control everything about producing and marketing your book. You may not be an expert in cover design or editing or any of these other areas, but I guarantee you one thing: you care more about your book than anybody else. Certainly than some 24-year-old Smith grad at the Flatiron Building in New York who's never heard of you and wants to put saguaro cactuses on the cover of your New Mexico book. Not that happened to me ever. I said, we don't have those in New Mexico, they're in Arizona. She said, what kind of cactus do you have? I said, well, we have prickly pear. She says, what does that look like? I said, do you not have a computer sitting right there on your desk with Google on it? I ended up taking pictures of prickly pear and mailing it to them. There you go. Because they're no smarter than we are. Look, they're bluffing their way through the workday just like the rest of us. Pretending they know what they're doing. Big publishers don't know anything. All they know is what sold last week. And they want some more of that. And by the time you can produce that, it's not wanted anymore, Anyway, the whole economy stalled out in 2008, right after Kindle came to the fore. And New York essentially just stopped buying manuscripts. They still bought their big names, but all the rest of us were just like, no, we're keeping every cent. We don't want to share right now because we don't know what's going to happen. And most industries, I think, we're in that kind of pullback. So they stopped buying me. Well, at least they stopped buying my manuscripts. I'm assuming that there was other people involved too. But now I have the option of self-publishing these books. So in 2011, let's see, my last small press book came out in 8, and they went under almost immediately after that. I think it was probably my fault. But I took their money and ran away, and ha 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 ha. Anyway, by 2000, so my agent was still showing my work around all this time, and I'm writing just crazy, writing one after another like I do, and they were just being roundly rejected. And so after a while, I had a kind of a pile of manuscripts that wanted to be published, and no one was willing to publish them. And so self-publishing suddenly became my thing. This was in 2011, the year we lived at the beach. Some of you have heard this story. We lived at the beach for a year. It was we just had some money we needed to get rid of, and so we spent it on rent. But I would get up every morning while I was all fogged in and work on self-publishing. My entire backlist, which at that time was 20 plus books. And I got all the rights back. Most of the contracts were so old they didn't have ebook clauses in them, which meant I automatically kept them. If you don't give it to them in a contract, you still own it. Don't let them tell you differently. So I brought out 4 or 5 books, I guess, in 2011, and then I published another one in 2013. And then I stopped self-publishing, and here's why. I got a contract with Random House. I'm like, okay, I don't have to do all my own stuff anymore. They'll do it. And of course, what they did was a crappy job, because that's my history. It was a new imprint at Penguin Random House called Alibis for Mysteries. They've got like 4 or 5 of these imprints now that do just ebooks, ebook originals. They're so late to the game in New York. They don't know what to do with ebooks, and then they're charging too much for them, and now they're trying to jump into the ebook original field, and they don't know how to do that either. So, fun for me. My agent was shopping this book around under a pen name, hoping somebody would pick it up, and they did, and it was called Duke City Split. And they said, what are you writing now? I said, I'm writing a story about a hitman. They said, well, can we make that a Duke City book too? I said, you betcha. So we changed the name to Duke City Hit. And then there was a 3-book deal, so I wrote also Duke City Desperado. These books had nothing to do with each other, except they were all set in, guess where? Albuquerque. They have not the same characters, different plots, nothing, literally nothing to do with each other. So they were marketed as a trilogy. They didn't know what to call a book where the criminal is the good guy. So they call it the Lawbreakers trilogy, because that sings. And then they marketed it to book blogs, which is a good thing. Book blogs I wasn't able to get to. And it turns out there's a reason for that, is because all these book blogs are by women for women, and I'm writing books with a lot of shooting in them. And so that didn't work out so well either. And then those few people who actually like me and like my books, they couldn't find them, because guess what? Pen name. So it was a nightmare. And so when my agent came back to me and said, you know, this new book I'm showing around. Oh wait, no, there's more. Oh, I left out a part. Okay, at Alibi, I published these 3 books. They're doing terribly. And, but the editor loves me. And so he says, so I'm having lunch with him at a conference. I'm having lunch with him. And I'm thinking about what my next book might be, because he's about to ask, and I know that. And so I've decided I'm going to write a book about a guy, all I know about him, his name is Jack, and he steals semi-trucks. He's a hijacker. He's Jack the Hijacker, is kind of funny to me. And I'm listening to this editor, and he says, "What have you considered writing a female protagonist? Because that's really what we can sell." And I said, as a matter of fact, there's this woman named Jackie who steals trucks. And he's like, I love it! So then I had to go home and write it. And by the time I could get it written, I said, we sent it to him. He says, oh, I want a 2-book deal. I love this. I want more Jackie. And so I started writing the 2nd book. And then he got fired. Yep. Orphaned again. And before we assigned this deal for these two books, so suddenly I've got a book about a female truck hijacker that we're shopping around. And guess what? New York went, we don't know what to do with that. And I said, well, I do. I'm going to self-publish it. All right, so I did. And it's good for me because I knew I was coming to this conference, and I thought, if I hustle, I can get this thing published before the conference and use it as an example. And also sort of refresh my memory about how it all goes, you know? So that's exactly what happened, and this is the book. It's called Shotgun Boogie. There's a truck on the front that she steals in the book. That's me on the back. It's a very lovely book. I print it with a lot of air so that it's easy to read. 1.5 spaces rather than single spaced. Yes. This is Amazon. This is CreateSpace. I'm sorry, I should have said that right away. This is all this Amazon. I'm going to just amplify something that Sarah said about getting your books out to as many places as you can. At some point, though, you have to decide about Kindle Unlimited. And so, for years, I had all of my books out on Kindle and Smashwords to get it to everybody else. And I finally saw what my friends were making from Kindle Unlimited, and I took all my book off of everywhere else and gave it exclusive right now, all my books. Put them exclusively on Amazon. And right now, I'm making as much every month on rentals as I am on sales. So I've doubled my money in Amazon, which of course Amazon was already 90% of my sales. So Nook and Kobo and all these others I was reaching through Smashwords. So it wasn't a great loss for me to back out of that and just give them the exclusive thing. So sidebar. But this was published by CreateSpace and Kindle, and it came out just this past week. And I've already got a local artist who, this is an okay cover, but the next cover she did is the bomb, because it looks just like this, except instead of a white truck, there's a burning car in the middle of it, which is the way the book opens, with a burning car. And so it's like, wait a minute, an artist who actually reads the book to the end? Oh my God. In New York, you can't even get them to look at a picture of a cactus. All right, so it had been a while since I'd run through these paces at CreateSpace and at Kindle, and so this is a good reminder of the cardinal rules of self-publishing, which I will tell you now. Take your time. No one is in a hurry except you. No one else even knows that book's coming. So take your time. Read the instructions. I know it seems simplistic, but it's so easy just to skim them, and then you've missed something really important. Make your book the best it can possibly be before you put it on the market. I mean, yes, you can fix things, but do you want to be in that position where you've thrown out some book that needs fixing? All of these services give you a chance to proof the book out before you hit that publish button. So even if you've had professional editing and all that stuff, you need to proofread the final version. I'll give you an example of why. So I get this through CreateSpace, and I tell them, here's $5 or whatever it is, mail me a proof of the book. And because I was trying to get it here, mail it to me in a hurry, I had to pay extra for that. Not too much. So for like $10, I got the proof of my book, which looks just like this, except it says proof on the back page. And as soon as I got it, I took it out and I'm like, well, that looks pretty good. And I looked at the back and went, oh my God, there's a typo. Which, how did I not see that all those times? It's gone through past my eyes. It's not there anymore, of course. This is on the proof I'm talking about. And then I open it up. And the inside, I go, oh, that looks, no page numbers. No page numbers at all in the whole book. I made a mistake in the formatting. I had them on the Word version, but it didn't translate over. I didn't do that one step with the page numbers. So I had a book with no page numbers, and you wouldn't believe how funny that looks. You open up and go, wow! Especially if you know where they're supposed to be. Another thing that changed since then is with CreateSpace now you have to have a PDF, which used to you could do it like a Kindle, you could squirt a Word document through there. But my ancient computer hates PDFs in all their many forms. And so I actually had to send the book to my wife by email. She converted it to a PDF on her nice new computer. See the rates here, right? And then she sent it back to me, and that's the version I used. And it worked out fine, but it's, you know, it was just an extra little step that I didn't know I'd have to do. After that, everything went pretty smoothly. Except then the cover art kept bouncing back. And this is, no matter how your cover art looks, they will find some reason to bounce that sumbitch back. It will just, it's bound to happen, okay? With this book, it was this E in the word boogie. That corner of that E, because it's on an angle, was too close to the edge. It was in the no man's land that they sketch out on the template for you. Don't put any letters here, because this might be cut off. It was a millimeter. It was the tiniest little corner was touching that red zone. And yet, boom, here it comes right back. And so I'd move it over. Finally, I had to go to the artist and say, I need you to move the type over ½ an inch. Just move, center it this way, and that fixed it. But there's always something like that. It's like any kind of endeavor. There's always going to be something that goes wrong. Yes, ma'am?
Are there humans that you can talk to at Amazon? Or
there are all kinds of humans, and a lot of them want to charge you money. It depends on what you're asking them to do. Basic sort of IT help and stuff, they're good for that. You know, if you've got something, you're having a problem with a formatting thing, you can send them a question, they'll send you an answer. But all the answers come with, this is the answer, but you know, if you'd like us to do this for you, for $200, you know, there's always this little pitch involved. But you can do it all yourself. I haven't spent, except for what I spent on the proof, which is like $10, I haven't spent a cent to get this book out. I did it all myself. No, the cover art. The cover art for this particular book was like $60. Because she just did it she just pasted some clip art together, you know, and made it look nice. The one for the next book is like $100 because she had to do a little more. Yes, ma'am.
Did you have somebody help you with your title, or did you figure out
the title of the book? No, that was the title all along. It was the title when I wrote the book. One of the things I like to have at the beginning is a title. Sometimes it changes, but pretty rarely. So anyway, I ran it through the process again enough times until that wasn't a problem anymore. And they tell you, they come back and say, you've been approved. This has gone through, your interior is okay, your exterior is okay, you're good to go. Proof it one more time and then publish it, and that's what you do. So this book, this manuscript bounced around New York for over a year and eventually led me to fire my agent. I put it on the market in 3 weeks. From the time I decided I was going to self-publish it to the time it was available on Kindle and in paper, 3 weeks. And if I had to make so many small mistakes on the cover and all that, it wouldn't have taken that long. There's all that bouncing back and forth. That is a miracle that you can bring a book to the market that fast. Traditional houses really do take a year, 18 months sometimes. My first book, they bought it in 91, it came out in early 94. You talk about a torturous 3 years, or 2.5 years, where I was an almost author. Nice. That was a long time ago. Okay, so I told you I've already got the sequel to this in the pipeline. I'm writing a book right now, and I was worried about the word count because these books, I tend to write around 60,000 words on these standalone crime novels. They're very fast-paced. They're like movies almost, and they're cinematic. And you send it to New York, and New York says, we really like 100,000 words. It's like, well, I'm not going to pad my book by 2/3, or again, because you like fat books that you make more money on. That's ridiculous. It's not that kind of a book. So I don't have to have that argument. Now I'm editing this book, or doing the third, fourth draft of this book, and it's like, it's under 60,000 words, and I'm like, Well, a few months ago I'd been having a panic attack right now over this. And instead it's like, that's okay, that's how long this story is. It's my story, it can be as long as I want it to. Of course, self-publishing means then that you are managing these properties forever yourself. And those dashboards and they bring you a lot of bad news. It's one thing when your agent says, okay, you've been rejected by 5 houses, I don't know what to do for you. It's another when you look at your sales numbers, see that you're being rejected by millions of people who've never even heard of you. Some people come up to me sometimes, they'll say, oh, I bought your ebook. And I'm like, oh, you're the one. So here's the latest in that. This is weird, a little bit of weirdness I'll just share with you. One of my Bubba Mabry books is, Long Street was started a guy named Bubba Mabry, this not very good private eye. And one of the books, later books featuring him is called Monkey Man. And it had been on Smashwords with all the other Bubba books and all my other books. And I yanked them all down and gone to KDP Select. Well, Kindle has people who check this stuff. And yeah, you can get a human then, for sure, if you violated something. If you haven't pulled it down everywhere, and you pretend it's exclusive and it's not, or something. Well, in this case, I get a message from KDP Select, and it says, we are taking your book, Monkey Man, off of Kindle Unlimited and KDP Select because it is available at a non-Amazon site in France. I wish I were kidding. It's called FNAC.com. It's like the Amazon of France. And they get their books, the American books, from Smashwords, and they still had it listed as available via Smashwords. So I needed to tell these people, this retailer, that take that down. It's not available as Smashwords anymore, and you're screwing me up over at Amazon. And I don't speak French. And their site is completely in French. There's no English option, because it's not aimed at us. It's aimed strictly at people in France. And so I didn't know what to do. My wife was like, surely there's some program that will convert this over. I'm like, do I want to get that deep into translating their French? No, all I want is the help number, And so I finally went to their Facebook page, and they had a Facebook page, and it was in French, but there was a way to send them a message. And so I just wrote in English, you've listed my book, Monkey Man, is available. It's not available from Smashwords. I need you to take it down. Help, I said with an exclamation point. And I shot that out there, and I didn't expect to hear a thing, right? And I didn't. For about 2 days, just France, and they're busy smoking, and drinking little tiny coffee. And so, we will get to this. But I got a note back on the second day, and it said, in broken English, which I was glad to see that he can't speak English any better than I can speak French. But it said, we're on it. We will fix this. Best wishes, Leo. And the fact that he signed it made me feel better, And so every day after that, I would go and check their site. It was still there, still there. And after about 5 days, it suddenly came up, and in French, which I don't even know how to pronounce it, but I translated, syllable by syllable, to this book ain't available no more. And then I sent a message back to Amazon saying, we're cool. It's back up on those sites, on those KDP Select and Kindle Unlimited. So this kind of little thing, it will plague you forever. And when you self-publish, it's going to keep coming up, and you just have to deal with it. It eats up writing time. It eats up family time, whatever. But you got to tackle these problems as they come up, and eventually it'll get solved, even if there are French people involved. I'm about to wrap this up earlier than I expected, but that's fine, because I want lots of questions. What are we talking about here? We're talking about patience, not my strong suit, and problem solving. That's all this is. And that's the way most businesses work. Certainly the way this one does. If you would just take your time and solve each problem as it comes to you without freaking out, you can just follow the instructions and solve it. You'll be amazed at yourself. You'll be amazed at how easy some things are, and amazed at how incredibly difficult some things that shouldn't be are. Get help, especially with art and with editing, and keep at it, until your book is as perfect as it can be, page numbers and all. You owe that to your readers, you owe it to yourself to do the best book you can, and you owe it to the retailers of France. I finished in record time. I will happily take as many questions as we have time for. Just start. Who wants to go first? No one. Okay, yes, Carol.
On your Facebook information, often you'll say this, this new book of mine is available through Amazon for a limited time for 99 cents.
Right.
Are you the one who decided
Yes.
that? See,
Yes.
I thought it was Amazon.
No, and this is a cool thing that you can do at Amazon and at Kindle. Sarah talked about you have to go through a lot of machinations to make a book free and give it away, and that is a little more complicated. But if you want to discount your book, you can do what's called a Kindle countdown deal, and you can put it on sale for 99 cents for up to a week. And you have to plan a couple of weeks ahead, of course, but then you can go on social media and say, hey, this book, and it might be a book I wrote 10, 15 years ago, but right now, today, it's on sale for 99 cents. From $2.99 to 99 cents. Now, I don't know what you guys, $2, I can lose $2 and not realize it, I thought I had some money, I don't know. But there's an audience out there that will try your book at 99 cents and they won't go to 99. I don't know why. They're cheapskates. I don't know. But at 99 cents, you will see a bump every time. You'll see a bump. And then the good news about that is as the 99 cent thing ends, as it starts coming down, you kind of saw that on Sarah's graph up here. As it starts to come down, you're still selling books, but those are at $2.99. But what's happening is people are saying, hey, I just read this book and you'll like it, you should try it. And by the time they can get there, it's not 99 cents anymore, see? so it's $2.99 for them. But you'll get sort of an echo bump coming out of the cheap days. That's what that is. It's a Kindle countdown deal. You can set them up, as many of them as you want. You can do the same book over and over with weeks in between, things like that. And just anything really to try to give you an excuse then to go talk to your social media people or your ebook list, however you're marketing. If you've marked down a book, even if it's a book nobody's bought a copy of in a year, suddenly you have something to talk about. You got, hey, sale. Everybody loves a sale. Yeah.
Okay, how do you do the countdown? What's the process to get a countdown to put on Facebook?
Okay, if you're on Kindle, you click the KDP. You have to be with KDP Select. But once you're in the KDP Select, which is that exclusive Kindle only kind of setup, there's a button there you push, you click, and it says promote this item or something like that. Promotions and something else, I forget. But anyway, you click on it, and it takes you in and says would you like to do a Kindle countdown deal? Would you like to do a free book? Would you like to do whatever else there is? And so it's right there, and it's really, especially the discounting thing, really easy. The Kindle countdown deal it's once you're at that page, it's 3 clicks. It's that easy. Yeah, I mean you have to put in the dates, but it's really easy beyond that. Another question, yes.
How do you deal with it? There's a, I don't know, I guess there has been, maybe not anymore, but price versus perceived value thing. In other words, how do you price your book nowadays in this market?
That's a good question, and it's an evolving issue. New York houses want to charge you $25 for a hardcover. They want to charge you $14 for a trade paperback, and they want to charge you $9.99 for an ebook. This is what they tried to do. And they tried to lock everybody in else into the same thing, which got them taken to federal court. Because it was price fixing. What we're finding for self-publishers is that $2.99 tends to be the magic number. You're going to sell the most at $2.99, or in terms of making money, you can sell more at 99 cents, but you're only making 35 cents a pop. You sell them at $2.99, you're making $2 a pop. So if I can, you know, $2.99 is sort of a magical number. Some people are experimenting with $3.99, and the idea there is that's not enough to run off your $2.99 customer, but you get a whole another dollar out of it. You get like, you know, 70 more cents out of it. So people are experimenting with this stuff. All of my books right now are set at $2.99 as on Kindle, unless they're on sale or something. They're all $2.99 because I want as many readers as I can get. I'm more interested in getting more readers than I am in getting more dollars right now. Dollars are nice, really, really nice. But a reader means you may get more dollars later, because if like what happens to me sometimes is in my books, because they're a type of book, you know, I kind of write not the same book over and over, but I write about criminals. There's a lot of comedy involved. So what will happen is somebody will discover my books and then they'll go and get them all. And I love those people and want to have their children. But it doesn't happen nearly enough. But when they do, they're all available out there for pretty cheap. And so you can go and get these. You can get all those books for less than $100, and less than that. I'd have to do the math, but like $75. You can get all my books on Kindle, and that's a year's worth of reading probably right there. It's a moving target pricing. It's still a moving target, but that's for the, like right this moment, the snapshot in time. $2.99 is the one everybody's agreed. Yes, sir.
I was just going to add, in the communities, that's a big topic.
Yes.
So you can get involved in that conversation and see how
Yeah.
people are thinking about it.
Yeah, $9.99 is a ridiculous amount of money to ask for an ebook. There's no paper involved. There's no shipping. There's no warehousing. There's hardly any taxes. There's hardly.
Look at children's books.
Well, children's books are, yeah.
They're like $15.
Yeah, well, you know, and college tech, I teach at UNM, college textbooks can be $100, $200, and it's the biggest scam going right now. But okay, we don't have to be part of that. We can be the guys who are selling them for $2.99 and making everybody happy, you know? Hopefully ourselves most of all. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, and when you're doing the print through CreateSpace, they will suggest the price for the print.
That's right,
And
that's
it's
right.
mostly based on the size of the book.
I should have mentioned that. When you publish in paper, and CreateSpace will tell you, once you've got all the parameters in and how many pages it is and all that stuff, what size it is. This is the standard, 6x9 is the standard size, but they have a dozen different options, or 25 different options or something like that. Anyway, once you tell them I want a 6x9 book with 325 pages, they will say the least you can charge for that book will be like $11. So that you make $3 and they make the production cost back, plus they make $3, something like that. And so if they say $11, you charge $12 or $12.99 or whatever, and that's the money you're making. Speaking of which, I brought a bunch of these new books. Joanne's waving them back there. They're back there on that back table. They're $12.99 on Amazon, but I will sell them to you today for $12. Because I don't want to fool with change. It's a fun book. You would like it, but that's all the sales pitch. Once this is over, I'll just stand back there and swing by and, you know, relieve me of some of these. That'd be great. Where was the, yes ma'am?
I had a question about the cover art. Do you find the cover art an artist online, or is that part of the?
That's a good question. You can find them online, and they'll have like websites that show lots of examples of their work and all of that. For most of mine, my wife did them, and that shows you again how there's a good do-it-yourself example there. I can't do it, but she knows how to use Photoshop. And if you look on Kindle, if you look at any of those books that were published in 2011, or the one that was published in 2013, she did all those covers. And so we really were doing it yourself as far down as you could take it. It was costing me nothing to publish these books, essentially. But I don't have to hire an editor, partly because I am an editor, and I charge a lot for it, and partly because my wife is an editor who's even better at it than I am. She used to be a copy editor in newspapers. And so we run it through us a couple of times each, and we know it's clean. But if you've never published anything before, I guarantee you need an editor. If you've never published anything like book links before, you need 2 editors. One to slap the other one upside the head and keep him awake. No, there's... I just made that up. We can't stress it enough. You can read, I can read the same stuff that I wrote 10, 12 times and miss a typo every time. Because I'm reading it, I'm completing it, my brain is adding that in. Somebody else looks at it, they don't know what it's supposed to say, they'll catch it. And so, at minimum, you need several people who aren't you to read it before you show it to the public. And get that feedback. And really a professional editor is the best way to go. Professional editors can also be found on the internet. But that's, if you can keep it local, you're better off. It's best if you can do it face to face. Southwest Writers has editing services. You can find them through the website. There are people around. Larry does it. I know. I've done it in the past. Who do edit for money, and you can get a fairly crappy editing job for, let's say, $1 a page. That's somebody who majored in English, you know. If you want someone who's any good at it, you're going to pay $3 a page. And if you want me, you're going to pay $5 a page. And that's just the way it is. That's what editing costs. It's a hard job. And but it's worth it, because every typo, every badly constructed sentence loses you readers. They bought that one book, but they won't buy a second one. So it's really important. It's even more important than the cover art. The cover art, though, is what sells the book. And so it's pretty important too. You gotta, and I would recommend that you use a real artist if you can afford it. This is a local woman named Denise Weaver Ross. I can tell you this because her name's right here inside the book. And she's a friend of ours, and so she was doing them really cheap. But and this is the first time she's done a book. She's a graphic artist and painter and does all kinds of other things. But it's like I said, this one's okay. The next one's really fantastic, to the point where I think I'll use her in the future. Just keep using her and let my poor wife have her break. We got time for a couple more questions, I think. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
I think it's important to understand that when you're editing, you probably won't need more than one kind of editor, especially if you're writing fiction. There's the editor who's going to correct things for English composition and grammar and all that other stuff, but you need somebody who knows what the components are of a novel or something like that.
Yeah.
So there are different editors out there,
Right.
and you do really have to pay for good ones.
Yeah, well, this is why, one, I don't do it very much, because it's hugely time consuming to do this for money, and the other is that most people don't want to pay that much. You know, they want to try to get off cheap because they can. But the kind of editing I do is for content and copy editing, and that's for the final polish before you send it to a publisher. I'm not trying to sell you a service. I don't want any of these jobs right now. So I'm just telling you what I have done. I did one earlier this year. It had my favorite typo of all time in it, which I'll tell you now. There's a lot. The main character was a cellist, and so there's lots of music in this book. And at some point, the music reached a crashing credenza. I love that so much. He could have said cadenza, he could have said crescendo, but no, he split the difference. I just put like a big smiley face in the margin, you know. I was like, you made my day right there. Anyway, it's important to to get quality. People don't want to buy your book and then find out that it's crappy. Yeah, they don't want to get home with you. Have this come in the mail, and the first thing you see is that it doesn't have any freaking page number. Yes, Rose.
I was going to mention one thing. If you're only going ebooks, there are some people that really like to buy the books from the author and have them autographed.
Yeah.
You can't autograph an ebook.
Yeah. There is a new technology called autography, which my publisher was
Autograph.
autograph.
Autograph? What's that?
There would be more than one of these. So the one I saw had a Y on the end. But anyway, my publisher was doing these, and there was a way to electronically sign an ebook. And it's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever encountered in publishing. And I just refused. I just said no. They said, we want you to get to this conference early so you can demonstrate this with the other authors. And I went, nope. My plane won't get there in time. One of the fun things it can be fun about being an author is doing book signings and having actual paper books and sitting in bookstores and meeting people and signing them and doing all that face-to-face thing. It's good for your business. Even if you don't sell very many, it's good for your face to be out there and make it nice with people. But you need hard copies to do that. And so POD can solve that problem. For example, Treasure House Books down in Old Town, a great friend of the author, local author. They will carry these. Maybe later today, I'll take some down to John Office down there, and he'll take 4 or 5 of them, put them on his shelf, and sell them to tourists. Some bookstores, local independent type bookstores, will play that game with you without going through Ingram Spark or anywhere else. But it's rare. But that's one of the fun parts about being a traditionally published author, is going on book tours, and you end up spending your own money for them mostly, but they can be a lot of fun, and they can sell books. I mean, they can move books, but every published author in here has a story about sitting in a bookstore for 2 hours and not selling a single book, and you just have to suck it up. It was a bad day, or it's raining, or whatever, and go to the next one. Yeah.
One thing about that, though, little side note financially, everything you do as an author, since you're reporting income, is also deductible.
That's right.
And deductibles can carry over from your income to maybe the other incomes that you have, and it's okay, which is really
everything you do as an author, including the mileage to this place today, is a deduction.
And I've done that one, but one of them that I like to do, like my upcoming book tour in April, just happens to be in all the cities that my sister lives in, my mother lives in, my brother, and so all of my travel expenses out to see them is going to be a tax deduction that I can prove.
That's right.
I appeared at that bookstore and I signed copies, it's been sold.
In the very end of, not this, the one I'm working on now. See, I get mixed. The very end of the book I'm working on now, it takes place in El Reno, Oklahoma. It's an Albuquerque book, but this one scene happens out there. And I was going to see my parents in Arkansas. Spent the night in El Reno, Oklahoma. Guess what? It worked just fine for what I needed. And I wrote off all that stuff. Actually, I don't know that I have written those off. I need to do that. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have 2. One is, if you're doing a children's picture book, is the print on demand still available because of the so much color involved?
It is still available. Ditto with Kindle, but it is much more complicated. Put anything other than just basic words on a page is much more complicated, and have never done it, so I can't help you.
Right.
I just know that there's pages and pages of the instruction manual devoted to that. And I was able to go, nope, and just go to the next section. Yeah, but the instructions are there, but you have to, resize and stuff, every illustration. So it's a big job.
And I'm wondering if anybody knows, is it considered cheaping out on this marketing sites if you do the soft cover rather than the hard cover?
I don't think so. I tend to judge these things as a reader, and So when I was making this book, well, these are only a paperback option, really, these pod books, but I try to look at it as a reader. What do I want in a book? Well, I don't need 4 blank pages in the front, for example. I don't need that, so it just starts with the title page. I need it to be easy to read. It's like that, as opposed to what will people think? And I don't really care what people think.
Well, it kind of meant more like specifically for children's picture books.
Well, yes,
because
and the market, if I'm a parent and I'm gonna have to spend $15, $20 on a book, I want a hardcover because it's just more durable. In fact, I probably want one where every page is a hardcover and you can wipe them off. Yeah, but yeah, that's special problems with children's books and illustrated books of any kind. They're a different animal, a little more complicated. But I know people who've done it, so I know it's possible to tackle that yourself. Yeah, I think one more question, anybody? Okay, let's have lunch. Thanks very much.